Hello, gorgeous souls. Welcome back to High Vibing It. We are very happy to be here with you again today. And today it's just your hosts, Lindsay and I, and we're going to jam out on a topic that's been close to our hearts and we feel that a lot of people might be interested in or going through or be able to relate to. And I don't feel like I can word it as eloquently as Lindsay can. So I'm just going to turn the mic over to Lindsay and have her kind of give a summary of like what we're diving into today. So tell the peeps what we're talking about.
Hey peeps. So today I feel like what's been going on for me lately is this feeling of things are going really well for me. Not exceptionally well in a different way, but just I am coming more to terms with the idea that it's okay to relax in the times of ease, right? To ease into the ease, right? But the only challenge that I'm having, and maybe some of you can relate, is should I be worried that I'm not worried? Right? Like things are going well. I'm off I'm off of what is it called? Uh Alert. Like I'm not hyper aware of what could go wrong. I'm just choosing to lean back into the flow that my life is taking right now. And then I have this voice in the back of my head that's like, but are you sure? Are you sure you shouldn't be worried? Maybe you should be worried. Maybe you should worry about this. And I'm trying like to come to terms with that and maybe move to the other side of it. So I wanted to talk about it because I feel like maybe somebody's feeling this way or has felt this way. And I think me and Kelsey can dive into it in a way that I'll be able to hear what I need to hear. I'll be able to say what needs to be said, and then it will hit people's ears in a way that integrates and feels good and it helps them too.
Basically, we're using this conversation as medicine for ourselves and the world. It's the best.
That's
It's
the
a
best.
win-win.
That's how the best episodes go, though.
Yes, we're just getting curious about these journeys in life. And I'm really glad that you brought this up as a topic today because I think I'm going through something similar. And I feel like at its core, it's more of like an identity shift. Like from the old you that used to
Yeah.
worry all the time, and now you're becoming this new you who's less worried, and it's kind of like threatening your old self. It's like an ego death, right? And the old you is like, what about me? Why aren't we worrying anymore? And you're just like, yo, we're over here now. Like, we don't do that.
Yeah. And for me, like I know from doing work and from, all the work that I've done on myself, I know that my hesitance for ease comes with the fact that I had a very hard childhood, a very traumatic childhood, and every time I let my guard down, something bad would happen. Always, without fail. Like crazy. My house burned down when I went to sleep once. Like the things like that. Like you settle in, you feel as safe as you could possibly feel, and then bam. So I think that's a lot of the residual stuff happening right now for me, where it's like, uh, this is what happens when you let your guard down, and your guard is being let down. So you might not want to do that. And at the same time, I I quite distinctly do not feel the need to lift my guard. So it's this weird tug of war that I'm having where like I don't feel the need to be hyper vigilant. That's the word I was looking for. Hyper vigilant. And at the same time, I feel like I should feel that need, but I don't. It's so weird, this limbo that I'm in right now.
Yeah,
And
because
I
you have like your higher perspective and your adult mind telling you that everything's good now. Look at our circumstances. Look at how safe we are. This is awesome. And then you have your child mind coming in with the story that it created when you were young that like every time I let my guard down, bad things happen. So
yeah.
you have this back and forth between the perspectives, you know?
Do you ever have like future conversations with yourself that haven't happened yet, but you're like, this is what I'm going to say if this happens?
Give
Is
me
it
like
just
an
me?
example.
So like, oh girl. Okay. So this is just me. Sometimes I'll like, I where I project into the future and I'll be like, here's why I should have been worried now in the present moment, because this will happen. And then I will feel guilty or be like, well, that was a sign that you should have been worried. Am I making any sense? And I find myself also doing that. Like this is a situation where in the future I will have a conversation with my past self. When I say things out loud like this, okay. Listen. Uh where I'll say things like this, or I'll say something in the future to my past self, like, see, this is why you should have been worried. But nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. And there's no evidence that something will happen. I really hope people don't just, I hope I'm not the only one. I hope that some people can relate to this feeling.
I think a
And
lot of people are relating to
maybe
you.
not the weirdness that I'm bringing to the table, but the core essence of what it is, which is just, you have no evidence that it's bad. You have no, in fact, you have quite the contrary evidence saying that everything's fine. And yet you still have this need, or the need for the need, but not the actual need to
Well,
worry.
I think it's that classic cliche saying of like old habits die hard.
Yeah.
Like the majority of your life you have spent in worry. So that's not just going to go away overnight just because you're stepping into a new version of yourself. It's
Yeah.
going to take time for it to fade away. And like that's the uncomfortable process that you're going through right now of like shedding your old skin. I'm getting like a snake visual, like really strong.
So then here's the question then, is for me and others going through something like this, what's the action step? What to do? Do we just keep on keeping on and try to push that knee-jerk reaction to the side? I know where it's coming from, so it's not like I need to examine it any further. I know exactly where it's coming from. I try to hold space for it, but not to only to placate, not to encourage it to grow, because that's the last thing I need right now, is to let it be as big as I feel like it wants to be. But you know, what to do, you know?
Yeah. I think your question is coming from the assumption that you need to do something different. And I think from my perspective that the healing is already happening.
Yeah,
So you don't
I
actually
feel that.
need to do anything more. Like it's healing itself. The old stories are releasing themselves. It's more just like a better question might be, what can I do to make this like uncomfortable process? How can I support myself in the healing like during this time? And I would say for you and anyone else in this situation, like the best thing you can do is self compassion for the part of you that's still stuck in that narrative. And we can start by asking the question, that childlike perspective that you have, that you created when you were young and trying to make sense of your life of like, okay, every time I let my guard down, something bad happens. I think it's easy to have compassion for the part of you that feels that way because it's understandable why you would have come to that conclusion.
Not worrying when I should have worried, and like having the regret for not worrying at the time. But literally, if I really were to look at it, there's no way I could have, especially as a child,
I mean,
prepared for all
should
the
you
crap.
have worried? Like, would that have made a difference? No,
No,
probably not.
that is definitely that is the feeling that comes up of like, if I don't worry now, I'm going to regret not worrying when something bad does happen. But if I were to apply that to all my past experiences, there's no way I could have ever like perceived or known that anything was going to happen, especially with a child's brain, And do I want to go through life just worried and looking around every corner? And no, nobody wants that. But that is truly how I've been living for the majority of my life until, I would say 2018 is when it really started to shift. And I noticed it shifting because, oh my gosh, I've created my own safe haven. I have, through my actions and my ambitions and my choices, my decisions, I've created a safe space for myself. So I've started to become okay with not worrying. I've never not worried. Okay. So I don't want to just be like, I flipped a switch and I stopped worrying. However, once I was able to practice reminding myself, you're safe. You created a safe space. You've done this. Look what you've done. Nobody else has been able to do for you what you've done for yourself. So well done, first of all. And just easing into the fact that like, even if I'm relaxed, it doesn't mean something bad's going to happen. And then when nothing bad does happen, it kind of proves that to me even more. And I would say this is the first time, I would say all of the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, I have had this deep knowing that I am shifting. Something's happening. So whatever residual need for worry that I had is leaving. And I know it's on its way out. unnecessary projection, unnecessary, uh, moving myself into the future in a, in a negative way, that is gone, leaving, not gone, it's leaving. And so now I'm like, I'm glad that you said hold space for the healing as it's happening and you don't have to do anything else. Cause that is actually what I'm feeling. Like I'm feeling like there is nothing that I need to do, but it's again, that feeling of like, what if you do need to do something and you don't feel like you need to do something, but you really do, and you're missing it, that kind of thing. So it's just that, like, I know it's on its way out. I know that these are all just old, stale. I love using the word stale because it's so icky. Stale, outdated ways of being that are no longer compatible with who I am and where I'm going. And I definitely feel that. So I'm glad that you mentioned, like, there's really nothing else you need to do except hold space for the healing as it's happening. And I think I am doing that. It's it's very uncomfortable, but I will say not anywhere near as uncomfortable as being in constant worry of what might or might not happen,
Right. I think transition is always uncomfortable because you have an identity shift. You feel like parts of you are dying or leaving or going away, and like no part of you wants to die. So it's like holding the hand of your child's perspective and just giving your inner child a hug and telling her like what she needs to hear so that she can relax. And when she freaks out and comes into your head in the thought form of, oh my gosh, we should be worried, we're not worrying, this is bad, instead of listening to that voice verbatim, being like, oh, maybe I should worry. This thought means maybe I do need to be more worried. Instead of that, it's just recognizing, oh, this is just the part of me that's always worried. This is the part of me that came to the conclusion that my life is like this, even though it isn't. And this is the part of me that's just stuck in the past. So I'm just going to give her a hug and tell her that everything's okay now. And like, actually, we're not there anymore.
Yeah. And look where we're going.
Yeah. Like, what would you say? So, this is like what I would do in a session with a client. So, well, I'm not going to make you go into your inner child, even though that would probably be fun, but it's probably like too vulnerable for on air. So, let's skip that part and let's just go straight to the part where you tap into your highest self, your wisest perspective, your most open heartedness. And I want you to tell the part of you that's scared and the part of you that's worried, your inner child, like, tell her what she needs to hear.
Well, and that is actually where I was going next in this conversation, is like, this is what I know to be true. This is what I know to be true for everyone, but I'm not going to put those words in anyone else's mouth except my own. I know that once this last bit of the need for worry goes, unnecessary need, okay, need for worry goes, when I'm able to fully ease into the grace and flow of like free life, relief, that is when blessings, magic, manifestations, desires, dreams come true will be popping off in a way that I cannot even imagine. I know that it's already happening, even in spite of this need for worry. And so that is what I've been trying to remind myself of, and I guess reminding my inner child of too, which is, you've always been taken care of. You will always be taken care of because you have always been taken care of. And just trying to lean into that a little more, because it's always true. I can't think of one time, even in my hardest moments, looking back, I was never not taken care of in some way, shape, or form. I've never been hung out to dry, as they say, by the universe. I've never been destitute. I've never been, never.
And
I
if you want to take it even further from a different perspective, because like your childlike self might disagree, like, oh, what about that one time when this shit hit the fan? Or what about that one time? But like from the higher perspective, you can come to her and be like, I'm like, even if you weren't always taken care of in the past, even though these bad things did happen to you, like, I'm in charge now. Like, I've got you now. Like, I'm grown now and I can come in and like take care of you in the ways that you weren't before.
I don't think my inner child is there anymore. I think she's apprehensively hopeful. And that's what it feels like to me, is like,
yeah,
are you sure we don't have to worry?
yeah.
I know that my inner child definitely understands like that is never going to happen again, because I am full mama bear on my inner child, as the same way that I would be with my own children. You mess with my kid, look, I am scrappy. I will come at you. And I know that's how she feels. I know she feels protected now. And I think that going forward, the biggest thing that she has trouble with is taking a step into comfort and being like, I think this is fine, but is it? But are you sure it's fine? It's fine. It's really fine. I can do it. Okay. All right. And that's where I'm at. That's, if I could put into words or a feeling exactly where I'm at right now, it's like, really? Is this okay? Is this fine? We can be comfortable. That's the best way I can describe it without
Yeah, that's a
not making
good way
sense.
to describe it because that really is the healing process, right? Like I'm thinking of a personal example where I felt like that when in the past I've had, not healthy relationships, toxic connections.
Yeah.
When I met Jeff, my partner now we're engaged, we're about to be married. We have like a beautiful union. And when I was first with him, it was scary because I hadn't experienced something healthy before. And I was in the same thought pattern of like, is it safe?
Yeah.
This feels different. This feels weird. This feels foreign. This feels unknown.
It
This is
feels
what I
good,
want. This feels
but
good, but it doesn't feel right. Like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, is this
yeah.
really too good to be true? What's going on? And I think that's just what happens when you get to experience the opposite of whatever hurt you. Like you might be
Yeah.
skeptical at first. It
Yeah.
takes a little
And
time to adjust to the newness and the
yeah.
what you have been wanting and asking for.
And it does make sense where I'm at in my life now, because this is uh the first time in my existence as Lindsay that I have consistently created a safe space for myself. Okay, I've done the best I could, but when you're 20, 21, living in LA in an apartment with 2 roommates, there's a lot that can go wrong, right? There's a lot, like, it's always in my head, like, what if one of them doesn't pay their rent? What if we get evicted and it's not my fault? There were a lot of things that could happen outside of my responsibility. But this is the first time in my life where the full responsibility of safety is put on me and my choices. And my husband, yes, but me, right? Like, I know nothing's gonna happen with that. So it's really about me. And it's been pretty consistent for the last 3 or so years. But in the back of my mind, for the first 2 of those 3 years, I'm like, okay, but it could go away at any time. Okay, but it could go away. It could go away though. So keep worrying. Don't stop worrying. And now that I'm in like the third and a half, 3.5 years of it, I'm like, maybe it won't. And that is right now the big drama, is like, what if it doesn't go away? What if I am going to be okay? What if this is consistent for the rest of the time that I want it to be, for the rest of the time that I choose for this path to be? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because looking back, like, I've never had this situation in my entire life before. My power, my stability has to some extent always been placed in someone else, even when I was just out of high school. I moved in with my high school boyfriend at the time, and he moved out. And so I was stuck trying to pay rent with three animals. One of them was his, paying all the bills, working 2 jobs and going to school at the same time. And it was just always, it was always like heightened. It was always hyper vigilant, very hyper stressed. And that's how I learned to kind of operate my entire life. And then, yeah, so long story short is, right now in my life is the first time I'm able to settle. And so I can understand why I would question it, because I've never had it before. I really haven't.
Yeah, it's so understandable, for you to be uncomfortable in the transition of like, oh, this feels weird. Because, like you of all people, you always say how, anything that's foreign to the subconscious is like viewed as a threat.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
something good
Even
can be
comfort.
viewed as a threat. Yeah. Even feeling relaxed can feel like a threat.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Crazy.
Shout out to all my people who don't know how to relax. Ayo. Yeah. When somebody told me that, somebody actually said that to me. It was a counselor. And I'd never heard anyone say that to me before. I'd never heard anyone say it before. You don't know how to relax, do you? And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course I do. I sit on the couch, I watch TV.
I'm the best at everything.
Well, it just never occurred to me that you wouldn't be good at just letting I was thinking, I guess, physically relaxing, not mentally, because my mind
Right.
really never relaxes. And when I said it, was like, yeah, I relax at the end of the day. I watch TV and stuff. And he goes, but do you relax or do you just zone out and vacate? And I was like, oh, oh, got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. I'm not relaxing at all. And since I learned that about myself, now I'll ask my clients, like, do you know how to like truly relax? And I'm shocked at how many people really don't know how to relax in mind, body, and spirit. Um, Especially now, I'm going to leave a lot of leeway for this and a lot of compassion for this, because especially now in 2022, we have message units coming at us from every direction 24 hours a day. We're on our phones, we're listening to the news, we're attending to our responsibilities, we're going to our jobs. There's so much message unit. We call them message units in hypnotherapy because it's the amount, the units of information that you're taking in at all times. And when you take in too many, you go into overload or overwhelm and you just check out mentally. And how many people know that feeling of being like, I cannot take one more bit of information. It's a real thing, especially nowadays. And so of course we're going to feel that way. And of course it's going to be harder to relax in that way. But if you know this about yourself, and now that I've said it out loud, if you know that you have trouble relaxing, now you can take steps to truly feel what relaxing means to you and what it can do for you.
Yeah. And I
Sorry,
think
side tangent, but it's important.
I think for some people, it's about finding ways that they can get into that flow state and have a break, like kind of inducing the relaxation instead of just
Yeah.
like going from being super stressed and like forcing yourself, like, okay, don't be stressed, be relaxed. Like that's
Yeah,
so
that'll
hard.
never work. That'll never work.
So I think it's about finding the little pockets of joy in your day and finding those activities that naturally make you to feel relaxed. Like maybe it's gardening, maybe it's fishing, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's TV, whatever it is. Everyone has their own ways of connecting to their own relaxation. But I think once you realize and identify, like, I would prefer to be more relaxed, what can I do to cultivate that more and
Kelsey,
more every day? And you have to practice it because your nervous system only has so much capacity for whatever you've been experiencing, and you have to like grow it.
I just got a divine download that we need to talk about.
Yes.
What about those people, bless them, who are afraid to fully relax and quiet their mind because they're afraid it'll go somewhere dark or go to a shadow that they're not trying to look at?
I would say if you're afraid, do it in good company. Don't do it alone. Do it with a therapist or a guide or a coach or a shaman or whatever. Like do it with someone who can hold the space for you and maybe bring you back if you feel like you're getting lost, you know? I think it's scary to do a lot of this type of work that we talk about by yourself at first.
Yeah.
Until you prove to yourself that it's safe to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does take like having a guide or a second person there who can like hold you through that experience for you to learn that you can do it well.
I like that.
Mhm.
I like that. When I was
Yeah. And
first
if you're
starting,
like, oh, I can't afford therapy, like you must have a good friend, someone, anyone, a parent, you know, an aunt, someone that's good at holding space. Plenty of people are good at holding space naturally. It doesn't have to be a professional. So just throwing that out there too, like resource people. You're allowed to resource people.
when I say quiet your mind, everybody says the best information, guidance, wisdom comes from within, and it comes from quieting, right? And being still. It comes in the stillness. And when a lot of people hear that, I think they go to like, well, I can't quiet my mind because this is what I think about when I quiet my mind. And that I can't do that. I'm terrified to do that. And they may not say it in those words, but that's the feeling. It's like, nope, we're not doing that. And so, yeah, I agree. I think that find somebody you trust and just have them sit with you. No expectations, no nothing. Just have them sit with you. You can try I would even you can just try to put music on, like nice theta waves and quiet that way. But I would kind of, especially if you're just starting out, maybe don't do like a guided journey because we're again trying to quiet the mind. And that I think is done the best if you are just still. Just don't put expectation on yourself. That's the biggest pitfall.
Honestly, what works best for me, and this is going to sound so basic, but this is why I love
Basic.
affirmations, is my mantras and my affirmations that just give me the perfect medicine in that moment and allow me to relax. So, like, for example, if I'm stressed out about something, I can just remind myself, like, I have all the time in the world. I do not need to do this right now. I can do it whenever, or I could never do it, and that would be fine. Or I could do it in the next lifetime if it doesn't happen in this lifetime. And I just tell myself these things that feel true to me that just push like a button on my nervous system of like, meow, baseline relaxation.
Yeah, I love
Not that
that.
I'm some relaxation pro, but there are things you can tell yourself that will induce anxiety, and there are things you can tell yourself that will induce relaxation. So
Yep.
you get to choose those.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this again very quickly, but they are so personal to everyone. The idea behind a successful affirmation is, what would I like to believe, and how can I say it in a way that's believable? You know? So if you want to calm down, that's a perfect one. I have all the time in the world. That's beautiful. I have all the time in the world. Time actually does expand and contract. So if y'all don't know that, it does. You can manipulate time. You can. Um, so time expands for you. You have all the time in the world. You truly do. Mine is I love this one. I am, how do I say it? It depends on the day, but it's usually, I have always been supported, I will always be supported, or I am supported, connected, and loved. Um, who doesn't want to feel that? If you felt supported, connected, and loved at any moment by seen and unseen forces, you would never be worried about anything. Because you'd
Yeah.
know every question you have is answered in that statement. Will I be okay? Yeah, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be great.
Yeah, sometimes when I find myself trying to be busy or trying to overachieve, that's like been my addiction of choice for a lot of my life. I just remind myself, like, I don't need to do any of that to have a great life. I
Yeah,
don't need to write one more book. I don't need to create one more course. I don't need to take on one more job. I don't need to help one more person to have a great life. It's already great. I don't need to do any of that. That's all things that I'm choosing to do because I like to and I want to.
yeah.
But in this moment, I choose relaxation. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. And let's talk about that for a second, because it gets so easy to have, you know, always have blinders on. If you picture those horses with the little blinds on their eyes, I don't look around as much as I should and realize, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss this when it's not here anymore. This is the good old days right now. When my kids are off, when they're all in school or they're all at friend's house or they're all at college, I am going to look back at this chaotic moment in my life where everything's on the floor and everybody's yelling at the same time and nobody wants to eat the dinner, and I'm going to miss it. And in those, it's such a great way, and use this in any area of your life. But for me, it's such a great way to zoom back into, like, wow, look at my life right now. I am going to miss this when it's gone. So I'm going to suck out every bit of value and joy and embrace this moment, because it'll be gone. And then you'll only have the memory of like how great it was, right? And if I looked at my life right now, it's pretty damn great. It's pretty damn great. I need nothing in my life right now. I want things, but I need nothing except everything I have. It's great. It's such a good feeling.
That was so poetic. Once again, Lindsay coming at us with the poetry. Can we all just take a moment of silence for that beautifully explained sentiment of healing medicine?
I couldn't tell what your face was doing. I was like, she either hates this or she loves what I'm saying right now.
I love it. I don't hate it. I love it. I'm like, oh, that's such a great, I don't know. I hate the word strategy because it's just becoming a thing in my mind. But really, it is a great strategy to zoom out,
Philosophy.
to zoom out and go like future pace and just look back on your life and be like, oh, this right now, this is the time. This is why I'm here. I'm doing the thing. I always look at
Yeah.
myself in the mirror and I'm just like, I'm really in this bitch. We're really up in here. We live in.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. We really are, Kels. We're doing it.
We're in it.
Everyone listening to this podcast, you are doing the damn thing. It might not be all the damn things you want to do, but you're doing a damn thing and it's pretty magnificent. And I think the best way to look at it is you get to want things. Recognize the distinct difference between a need and a want. And when you replace where you can replace that, I want to start this. I really want to finish this. I want to, change this instead of, oh, I really need to change this. I really need to finish this. It is such a different energy. You need food and water and shelter and maybe community, depending on if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Kelsey and I differ on that a little bit, but
Well, I would say everyone needs connection. Maybe
connection.
some people would prefer it in different forms than others.
There we go. I love that. So there are things you need, but you get to do everything else. Makes you feel a little better sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Hey there. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for High Vibing It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video, so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode, go to our podcast, High Vibing It, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.